these slides. Thank you. My assistant hit record. I didn't give her the go-to. I was a little slow to the draw. Thank you, Jacqueline. So Daniel's downloads December 15th, 2022, quality control in ISO. And you're wondering, what is ISO? We'll show you that information. I'm very excited to share that. But I love sharing the quality control slides because it's actually a little bit of a shocker what we find in our laboratory. And I'm not going to get into other companies and what they're doing. That's up to you to ask them. But I'm going to give you some things to think about. But first, we're going to review, as I always do, just one of the from last week, or last month, I apologize, the BioMega DHA gummies. We released those a couple months ago, or 6 weeks ago, actually. And I shared with you, and for those of you that are new and haven't seen, we have these two.
Good. What do you think, you guys?
Another one.
You want another one?
Yeah.
Did you think they were delicious?
Yeah.
Can you say thanks, Daniel?
So our toughest critics approved of those BioMega DHA gummies because they're very tasty. Whoops. And there we go. So DHA, what is DHA? Most abundant fatty acid in the brain, found at levels several hundredfold higher than EPA. So when you're saying, well, if they just took a fish oil of an EPA DHA blend, would they get benefit? Yes. But doing a higher concentration DHA is going to help in neuronal development. We look at this in kids, but we also look at this in the elderly population. And a chewable is much easier to implement in both of these populations. Concentration in the brain and the retina is higher than any other cell. So I have an optometrist that is using DHA for eye health. It's the key role in memory formation, learning, photoreceptor, biogenesis, and neuroprotection. What's the beautiful thing about these gummies? I don't think I showed this slide last time. 43% higher increase into the system with a chewable versus a normal soft gel that you would swallow. Now, you'll see over time, they equal out in benefit. But in the initial phase, you get a really high spike of absorption rate with a chewable. And so great for these kids. I like to consult some of the doctors out there who do a lot of pediatrics. This is a great one to start their morning with. So we start with feeding the brain the healthy fats. So the BioMega DHA gummies, as we said, children require a lot of DHA. I mentioned in our last class that in one of the books to get my certified clinical nutrition degree was a lot on DHA and fetal brain development. It's a smart chew technology, meaning that advanced delivery system to get you that 43% real high spike really fast. And as always, it's made from a superior quality fish oil that Biotics resources off the Chilean coast. The beauty of this also is it's just one chew a day. It's one smart chew a day. They come in a box, as you see, and they just pop out just like that. They're really easy to pop out. And it's just a little gummy, easy to chew. And the feedback, they even smell good. I'm telling you guys, like when we were sampling this at A4M, people really, really liked them. As the review, here's your price, your wholesale price, $14.95. If you buy 6 or more, though, 6 or more boxes, you get 15% off with that code right there of DHA22 that ends at the end of this month. You'll also get a stand with brochures if you request them. I will tell you this, parents will pay for their children and for their pets. We've talked about that before. To reduce lost daycare time, lost school time, we got to keep our kids healthy too. I've always talked about that in all aspects of immunity, but also in neurology. We've been through a lot in the past few years. The kids have experienced something very similar and maybe have different perspectives. So giving them good fats for the brain is really, really important. So that's the review. And now let's dive into today's topic. So we're going to talk about quality control and ISO. And this is a brand new presentation Biotics released to me not that long ago because of our new ISO certification. So we're going to talk a little bit about quality control and manufacturing, what maybe makes us a little bit different than some of the others out there. And again, this is also an educational process to also ask your other suppliers what they're doing. So there are many steps in the process of manufacturing and manufacturing standards. Step one, companies that private label products only, meaning somebody else manufactures their product. I know in Scottsdale here in the Air Park, there's manufacturing facilities that will manufacture for you, and then you put your label on it. That's step one. Meaning from a professional brand, we private label for you as well, but we're doing the manufacturing and it's putting your personal label on it. We're talking about this process of, let's say somebody manufacturing for us, Biotics Research, and we put our label on it. That's step one. Step two, companies that use contract manufacturers for their production. Pretty close there. Step 3 and 4, companies that do manufacture, but don't have their own laboratory. And we're going to talk about our laboratory. And some of the big companies out there do have their own labs. It's just at what level they do. Because honestly, in the laboratory business, you can, as a manufacturer, kind of create your own standards. Okay, be aware of that. You can create your own standards. And then there's step 4, companies that have GMP certification, certified manufacturing with internal lab that is not ISO certified. GMP certification, just so you know, is kind of a paid certification. You have a separate entity come out, inspect your facility, a very legit certification. But they will come in and look at you and make sure you're doing the processes appropriately. And a lot of it comes down to proper paperwork and documentation. I do know of companies that were doing level 4 and were inspected years ago and over the years and didn't have any documentation. So just to be aware, this is a little bit of an educational process for all of us. Manufacturing standards, step 5, companies that have GMP certified manufacturing and have an ISO certified lab. And then there is us. And yes, of course, I'm going to put us at the top, maybe a little biased, but this is the reality of the business. I've been at this so long that I want to give you the truth. I really do, because I find out, and not that companies are making bad products, don't get me wrong, but the truth isn't always out there. When it comes to manufacturing and laboratory testing, and it happened to me in Las Vegas. Well, who does your outside third-party testing? Well, I could tell you a long drawn-out story from years ago of some big name companies that got into a little match and were doing third-party testing. And ironically, when this guy did it, this guy failed. And when this guy did it, this guy failed. It was like I was getting the faxes back then of that little banter of back and forth saying, well, you're not meeting label claim. We do everything in-house. So Biotics Research is a company that produces many of our raw materials or processes them, like glandulars. We process them ourselves. Other companies who are using glandulars are buying 50-gallon drums already pre-prepared. We now are an ISO certified lab and are FDA inspected and maintain GMP certified manufacturing. So the pharmaceutical division of the FDA in Texas comes and visits our facility and goes through our facility with a fine-tooth comb and looks at our practices. What Biotics has been trying to do is put the truth out there for years and allow that inspection to be published and have other companies publish their inspections. And the FDA doesn't want that. But I can assure you the quality control standards at Biotics Research are top-notch. Again, this is an area to ask your other suppliers if you're using any others. And so here's the steps. Here's the ladder. I'm happy to provide that for you because you know what? That's a really good visual to show your clients and your patients of when you did the work, the due diligence to educate yourself, to pick a company that has some of the best standards in the industry. So what is ISO Certified Lab? It's the Internal Organization of Standardization. International, oh boy, I apologize. The International Organization of Standardization produces standards that help improve and ensure quality, efficiency, consistency, and safety of operations, products, and services. Let me read you a little paragraph aside from that. So the ISO certification denotes that the lab is adhering to higher standards for the practices taking place in the lab and the operations. If an outside organization were to submit a test sample to Biotics Research, they would have a level of assurance of the quality of work taking place within the lab. Now, We are not taking outside source material. Don't want to do that as a laboratory. We are doing internal work to assure you quality control, quality assurance. Without ISO certification, the practices of the lab, both from analytical and procedural perspective, are designed by who operates the lab. Remember, I said a few minutes ago, when you do that in-house, you can kind of set your standards. This does not allow you to set your standards. They are set by an international organization. So they could set the procedures and operation as they deem appropriate. This could, however, be inferior, but the company and lab could still claim they do good work. And that's where I would like you to question your suppliers. If you are worried about quality control, if it's a concern for you, especially as I talked about earlier on, that patients are still looking for high quality immune products, ask your companies, what level are they really doing? So ISO illustrates that Biotics Research Lab is consistently operating at a very high standard. 2, in this process, we're pioneers of research, development of delivery systems. Example, we hydroponically grow our trace minerals into our plant matrix. We sprout the plant, you have free-form trace minerals. The glandular quality, we're using neonatal glandular. That's a whole nother presentation to show you adult tissue versus neonatal tissue. We talked about that with like thymus. We're using neonatal thymus, very active, versus adult thymus tissue that other suppliers are using, that adult thymus is atrophying. It's not very active. Manufacturing of raw materials, 95% of the products are manufactured in-house, requiring expertise and sophisticated equipment. Example of ADP as an emulsified oil of oregano formula. We do that, boy. When we produce that in-house, we smell like an Italian pizza place. The place is potent. But if many of you have used ADP, I think you're very familiar with it. There's a patent on that product actually with a anti-parasitic study that was actually done in Scottsdale here by Dr. Mark Force, published that paper. But so remember, ADP stands for anti-dysbiosis product. You have an emulsified oil of oregano in a slow release tablet, because straight oil of oregano burns the villi of the GI. Very irritative. You're actually doing more harm than good. This is a slow release and emulsified small particle. You also are going to get lymphatic uptake and go systemic for other immune issues. Again, we have 6 patents. I got to work on the tongue twisters today. Over 6 U.S. government issued formula patents. One of them is on ADP. Another one is on our BioCardioCert BP in a published blood pressure study. We have on HCLEs as an anti-acidic for reflux patients. So we're very involved in doing research as a company as well. And then the innovation in manufacturing, supplier validation, raw material testing, and phytochemical identification. Wait until you see the slides that I've got coming up. I love giving these few slides because it's shocking. And then setting the standard, we are FDA inspected, as I mentioned earlier, and GMP certified. So that does, I will say it, I've been at this a long time. You know me, I'm a biotics guy, been with them a long time, that I believe we are a leader in quality in manufacturing. I feel very confident in that. And I think I know when I get to work with all of you out there, that what we provide, you do see results. I wouldn't be in business if we didn't get results. And I appreciate your trust in us. And I hope we can, further grow that as we keep doing Daniel's downloads and we keep visiting and educating and learning to help your clients and your patients. So we do have an actual facility. We can talk about it all day, but this is actually the building. But now we have 2. This is the older building. I don't have a picture of the new building. I was trying to get that. But now they're both about 100,000 square feet. So a lot of manufacturing space, a lot of ingredient holding space, and a lot of post-production holding space. So we're able to produce more in a better time frame. So we're not seeing short-term delays or back orders. The only back orders you're going to see are in supply chain issues. And that, by the way, I know you don't like hearing about it, but it is a reality. It's not like it was. And when we find an ingredient, now we have so much more space, we can buy a lot more to store. Keep in mind, we look at expiration dates on ingredients. So we are not buying a ton of stuff that's not going to get used up or is going to reach X date. So we're very cautious, and not everybody operates that way. So we do raw material validation. Biotics Research conducts our own appropriate examinations and tests in order to, one, demonstrate identity, purity, composition, strength, safety, stability. We'll show you all of that. Ensure the potency. Again, some very powerful slides coming up. Safety and consistency of products available to the consumers. Here is an actual picture of part of the lab. It is massive. It is high tech. I've taken a few customers through there, and they're really shocked once they see what really happens at Biotics Research. And now that it's ISO certified, it's like almost a separate entity away from Biotics Research, but in the same building. So let's get into testing for identity and purity. So this is the kind of thing we do. Every time an ingredient comes in the door, we never trust the certificate of analysis on the volume that is sent to us. We may be using suppliers for 45 years, and we are still going to validate that ingredient before it goes into manufacturing. That takes time. So you will see with pure compounds, we're doing TLC plates with pure compounds like cysteine, leucine, aspartic acid, and ribose. But we're also doing TLC with your botanicals to make sure they are what they are. Let me show you this one. Here's a case of resveratrol, a very expensive nutrient that many of you know out there. It's a pricier product for your clients. So we were looking for trans resveratrol. The supplier was out of New Jersey. Here's trans resveratrol, question mark. No spot detected for trans resveratrol in this large amount that we purchased. So what did we do? We rejected that material and replaced it by the supplier after their own investigation. So if we didn't do validation with a supplier that we've used for a long time, then, well, you'll see what you would have gotten. Green tea. Here's the letter. I'd like to offer a formal apology to Biotics Research. We have received a 25 kilograms of resveratrol back and figured out why the material did not match certificate of analysis. That's the C of A. There was an internal shipping labeling error, and the drum that we sent you was actually green tea. So if a company doesn't do that validation, you would think you're getting trans resveratrol and your client's just getting green tea. Things like don't happen like this on an overly regular basis, but things that do happen at our facility is we reject a lot of material for the following reasons. So we do HPLC testing, and you'll see here's an extract from St. John's wort, high quality. This is the spike you're looking for right here. That's your ingredient you're looking for in St. John's wort to have the antidepressive effect. Here's some we purchased. There's your spike. Not even nearly, and what shows up. Sometimes I'm learning that quercetin will be put in as a filling agent. Well, that's not the effective ingredient we're looking for St. John's wort. So the moral of this story is if we find that spike high, we're going to take it, but this is a batch we rejected. Who's getting that batch, bottling it because they're not testing it, and then your client tells you or your patient tells you, I've tried St. John's wort, didn't do anything for my depression. Well, this is why, because that supplier bought this vat that doesn't do the validation testing like we do, and it didn't work for them. So this is why you have to have confidence in who is now supplying your nutrients, especially with what's going on in the world now with supply and demand issues. People are purchasing whatever they can at some levels. There's a statement, I said it before, from the vice president of Biotics. You are who you are when nobody is looking. Testing for potency. So we were looking for grapeseed extracts, very strong, potent antioxidant. We sampled from 4 suppliers, one out of California, China, Japan, France. Their certificate of analysis at percent activity, California, 90%. China didn't supply one. Japan said theirs was 41, and France said 92 to 95. Now, this slide's from a few years ago, and grapeseed extract in a lot of the products in the United States were being purchased from this supplier right here. It's close, it was convenient, the price was right. But this is what Biotics Research found in our laboratory. It didn't meet their C of A of activity. Look at how low the Chinese source was. Look at how low the Japanese source was, but it was above their C of A of activity of a full high polyphenol content, strong antioxidant activity. But here's the French source. Met their claim, was the most potent on the market. That's the one Biotics Research decided to use. So even when it comes down to single nutrients, there's all kinds of supplies globally. We look for purity, we look for potency. Here's a potent product. No, not to say that this doesn't work, but again, I talk about the bang for the buck. This one's going to work better. Testing for safety, heavy metal analysis. We do it on all of our products. Again, this is the first stage as something comes in the door. Look at all these reasons for rejection, meaning materials we rejected. Resveratrol, high mercury, lead for the broccoli, ginkgo biloba, kelp, Icelandic kelp. Look at all these above our allowable limit for heavy metals. Because keep in mind, when you start concentrating a product, what happens to the heavy metal content? It goes higher. Now, some of these are naturally occurring and we have to work around these things. That's very true from the soils, from the air. It's a reality in the industry, but we test for and we look at how much concentration is be going in. Testing for residual solvents. All right. This is the one I share with every class that I give because this is a potent slide. Residual solvents classes, 3 groups based on their degree of toxicity. Class 1, solvents that should be avoided. Class 2, solvents that should be limited. And Class 3, solvents with low toxic potential. All right, are you with me? Turmeric root standardized extract, curcumin. We're all big into curcumin. We use it as an anti-inflammatory, a strong immune product. So a class 1 solvent, let's go back a slide. Remember, class 1 solvent, technology, there we go. Class 1 solvent, solvents that should be avoided. But when we are doing extractions, now this is not done in-house by us. When we are doing extractions, that's how it has to be done, okay? So here you go. They used a class 1 solvent to extract that nutrient from the turmeric root. The USP allowable limit is 5 parts per million. We, in our laboratory, do an assay looking for that solvent. What did we find? 139 parts per million. Let me say that again. 139 parts per million, way over the allowable limit. What did we do? We rejected that material. Again, who doesn't test for that solvent, or who just buys the product and bought our rejected material and put 139 parts per million of class 1 solvent into an ingredient you're trying to use as an anti-inflammatory and an immune boosting product. This is the reality. I am not trying to be a doomsdayer. I'm trying to share a message with you about quality manufacturing in this industry. Because as you know, this is a very big industry. And you see, like I said, I was at A4M. I couldn't believe the hundreds upon hundreds of companies. As long as I've been in this, and some of you, we've talked about this, we've seen all these companies come on board. But what level of quality manufacturing are they doing? Microorganisms and test methods. We're looking for E. coli. We're looking for Listeria, Salmonella. Look at, we found them and specification negative. We take the product when it is negative. But let me share with you. We make a product for a doctor, and it took us over 4 samples from 4 different suppliers to find a beetroot powder that didn't have mold in it. Now, and that was organic beet powder that did not have mold in it. And so we reject that material. But you can irradiate it or bleach it and still call it organic. We did not do that. We looked for true, clean, organic material. So it took a while to get this product made because of that process. We test for aflatoxins. You see that. We're looking for those. Below 20 parts per billion is acceptable. Screening for gluten. We are a 100% gluten-free company. I say that again because I get that question a lot. We are a 100% gluten-free company. So if you see on our labels, barley grass, oat grass, wheatgrass, we are sprouting that and taking it before the gluten ever shows up. And here's our gluten test strips, okay? Look at, we did find positive results here, negative results there, negative, positive, negative. So obviously we reject the positive results. So you are not getting any gluten. Across the board, we're a 100% gluten-free company. Well, I cruised through this nicely for all of you. I haven't given you the raffle question yet. I figured since the holidays are coming up, and we've talked about lithium as one of my favorite products for stress and anxiety, but de-stress could be at the dinner table for some people. I will tell you, this product's in the armrest of my car. It's in my son's golf bag. It's a nice calmative. This is a product I've talked about before that my veterinarian years ago, Dr. Ward, said to use on my first dog I had, because he was a pretty ambitious yellow lab, and it would just calm him down. It is a decapeptide extraction from milk. It's an anti-anxiety, so it works at the GABA pathway. Why I said low potency, because I've used it on kids a lot. It's very safe. The literature is very solid on de-stress for a formula to calm people down. Now, let's go back to the story on the milk. I'll read from you from one of the scientists at Biotics. So the max level of wait, let me just read this. The percent carbs from milk is 1%. So the max level of lactose is 2 milligrams. 1 cup of milk provides 13,000 milligrams of lactose. So that's why we have to put a warning label on here, because it is a milk extraction, but you're only getting 2 milligrams in this product versus 13,000 milligrams of lactose in a cup of milk. Unless you're hypersensitive, which I am. I did my genetics, even my milk allergy is off the charts from a inflammatory response, but at 2 milligrams does not affect me. And de-stress is a quick acting, about 30, 45 minutes. You're going to notice, I'm not so stressed. So this is the raffle product. Again, very safe. 1 capsule, 2 capsules, you're fine. You're not drooling on your shoes. You're not totally sedated. And even if you decide to have a beverage, you're not going to be knocked out, okay? It's just take the holiday angst away. Dylan uses it on the golf course to slow down that swing. I use it when I'm driving Phoenix traffic just to handle what I say, because I've been out there so long, people that aren't that good at driving. So there it is. So what was the amount in parts per million that was found in the turmeric root extract that we rejected? 10 parts per million, 25 parts per million, 183 parts per million, or 139 parts per million? That was that class 1 solvent that's allowable at 5 parts per million, but we found a different amount and we rejected the material. Jacqueline's over there taking notes. And I want to be legit again, because I just forgot to announce over the past Daniel's downloads who's won. So she's writing it, and we'll send it over. We'll look at questions there too. You will all get this presentation as a follow-up. Again, I don't want to sound like we're the be-all, end-all. That, you know me, that's not me. But I want you to be aware of manufacturing processes in this industry, to be aware that all supplements are not created equal, and to be aware that especially nowadays, supply, demand, suppliers globally, we have to be more and more cautious in our choices of ingredients that we're bringing in. So if you do maybe see a back order and you ask me, I might tell you it's because we had to reject the material. And I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody else might have it and their material might be fine, but we couldn't get that good material or whatever it was. But understand, things are different nowadays, and we want to provide you with a high quality nutrient. Jacqueline, do you have the list? All right. I just want to be fair. Oh, Gunther, you won de-stress. Carol and Isabel. Wonderful. You're going to like it. We'll ship it out right away. Just 1 cap a day. You can take more, but really all you need is 1. So I thought about starting the new year with my top favorite products for your practice. I think products that I feel are very broad spectrum use, like the Actimeg. I love Actimeg. We'll talk about those, and I'm going to show you my favorite products, learning from all of you of what you're telling me is giving you the most, again, bang for the buck. That'll be Thursday, January 26th at 12 p.m. in Arizona. I will send out those details. Remember the stairway, and you'll see that again. If you'd like that slide, let me know, because I think it's a powerful slide again to show your patients and your clients. There's my information. If you have any questions, you have my email, my cell phone number, 602-690-9636. Those of you know I'm a big texter. I'll get back to you as fast as I can. As always, I appreciate your time. I like to keep it right at the 35-minute mark. And so I hope I wasn't too fast, but you will get this recording. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I will look forward to touching base with all of you in the new year. I'm going to line up a once-a-month Daniel's Download for the season to keep you educated on what is going on with biotics research with solid protocols. I'm working on a bunch of new protocols to have for you out there. So let's get into the chat box, and we can stop the recording too.